Practical Anarchy, A Guide to Self-Determination, Dicky. So chapter 10, Imagining a World Without Rulers. So this is the final proper chapter, and then we've just got the summary chapter afterwards. So we're going to sort of bring it all together in this one. So I'm actually going to present to you the contents of this one. So we're going to talk about the principles for free society based on what we've been talking about already. We've got some case studies which are glimpses of future society today. The national versus global transformation. Beyond scarcity, so abundance and limits, how we can get over the resource issues, etc. Crime, justice and care without the state, so that brings together some of the points we discussed in an earlier part about crime, about how we might deal with it. Culture, creativity and everyday life, that's the important things. Festivals, etc. Anarchism and art, anarchism and science fiction, obstacles and doubts and how to meet them, and some quite important things there, including just the psychological doubts. This is impossible. We're all evil, etc. Systematic roadmap from country to world. So I'm going to attempt to give you a roadmap for how we might do it in one country, and it's not short. It's I think the roadmap for a country is takes at least 50 years. Then I'll also have a go at how we might do it for the world. And that takes at least 100 years, I think, from memory. And then we'll have a summary and say what we can do now, or summarise the sort of things we can do now, and then we'll move on to the concluding chapter, which is just a summary of what we've been said in the book. So, chapter 10, section 84, Introduction, from critique to vision. The previous chapters have exposed the scaffolding of domination, the state, money, religion and party politics, showing how each presents itself as natural while serving to consolidate hierarchy and control. Together they form the common sense of modern society, that governments protect us, that money is necessary for exchange, that religion guides morality, and that elections give us power. In reality, as chapters 4 to 9 demonstrated, each of these myths crumbles under scrutiny. What they sustain is dependency, inequality and obedience, dressed up as order. Yet anarchism is not only about dismantling illusions. From the very beginning, anarchist thinkers and movements have stressed the constructive side, the ability to build horizontal, cooperative, life-affirming forms of organisation. Kropotkin's The Conquest of Bread outlined how mutual aid and decentralised distribution could replace capitalist markets, while Colin Ward's Anarchy in Action revealed how anarchist principles already operate in everyday practices, from self-built housing to informal care networks. Later, Murray Bootkin's concept of liberation municipalism sketched politics of neighbourhood assemblies linked through federation, configuring what we called federated resource councils. These visions remain vital because they push us beyond critique into imagining how life might be lived differently. This chapter marks precisely that turn. If the earlier parts of this book dismantled myths and exposed contradictions, the task now is to sketch what comes after. What would it mean to live without money as control, without the state as master, without religion as psychological overseer, without political parties as false mediators? What happens when the chains are gone? These are not rhetorical questions, but urgent ones, as ecological collapse and social fragmentation make the status quo increasingly untenable. The challenge is one of scale. It is relatively easy to imagine anarchist practices at the micro level, housing cooperatives, mutual aid groups, squats, off-grid communities and digital commons. Such spaces already exist, demonstrating that people can and do organise themselves without bosses or bureaucrats. The harder question is whether these principles can scale up to the level of a country, or even the globe. Can a society of millions, perhaps billions, coordinate production, distribution and care without falling back into hierarchy? And if so, what steps would be needed? Gradual evolution through reform and experimentation, or something closer to complete restart? History provides mixed lessons. The Spanish Revolution of 1936, though crushed by fascism and abandoned by its supposed allies, showed how millions could self-manage agriculture and industry through federations of collectives. The Zapatista municipalities in Chiapas and the Kurdish communities of Rojava, I hope I said that right this time, show how indigenous traditions of consultation and modern struggles for autonomy can blend into resilient federated structures. At the same time, the failures of the 20th century revolutions warn us of the dangers of centralisation, co-option and external repression. But no constructive vision can ignore the material basis of survival. For anarchism to be feasible at scale, there must be enough resources for everyone to live with dignity. Here, questions of population growth, energy use and planetary limits loom large. The concept of planetary boundaries reminds us that infinite growth is impossible on a finite planet. Climate change, biodiversity collapse and soil depletion already threaten to destabilise basic life support systems. Whether anarchist or not, any viable society must reckon with these constraints. The challenge is not scarcity in the absolute sense. The world still produces more than enough food, for example, but the unjust distribution and waste driven by capitalism's endless growth imperative. A resource-based society would therefore need to combine sufficiency with sustainability, ensuring everyone has enough without breaching ecological thresholds. The question that frames everything in this: is such a future really possible? Or, put another way, do we already see the seeds beneath the snow? Fragile but real examples of how life beyond the chains can be lived. The chapters ahead will examine those seeds, their obstacles and what it might take for them to grow into a forest.